In other news today, reaction coming in from around the world to the death of prominent, controversial U.S. statesman Henry Kissinger. He died at his home in Connecticut yesterday at the age of 100. Kissinger was Secretary of State for Presidents Nixon and Ford, but advised many other presidents as well. His impact on world diplomacy was huge and spanned decades. The current Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, was speaking in Tel Aviv about Kissinger's influence.
Secretary Kissinger really set the standard for everyone who followed in this job. I was very privileged to get his counsel many times, including as recently as about a month ago. He was extraordinarily generous with his wisdom, with his advice. Few people were better students of history. Even fewer people did more to shape history.
Kissinger's family will hold a private funeral followed by a public memorial service in New York. Kissinger fled Nazi persecution in Germany as a teenager. He earned the Nobel Prize in 1973 for negotiating a ceasefire in Vietnam. He was also accused of orchestrating U.S. President Richard Nixon's secret devastating bombing campaign in Cambodia and for supporting dictators known for grievous human rights abuses. As we take you to Washington, Richard Madden there in our bureau in the U.S. Capitol. Decades ago, this man served, Richard, as Secretary of State, as I said, to Nixon and Ford, but his legacy felt right up to modern days. And it's a legacy that is controversial and complicated. So how would you sum it up?
Yeah, Heather, he was undoubtedly one of the most influential diplomats in U.S. history. And during his day, he was a bit of a pop culture celebrity. He was both admired and vilified. As you noted, he rose to national prominence as President Richard Nixon's national security advisor and Secretary of State in the early 70s. He also stayed under President Gerald Ford, and during that time, he dramatically reshaped U.S. foreign policy, credited for easing tensions with the Soviet Union, opening up relations with China, and that so-called shuttle diplomacy in the Middle East. He also helped negotiate an end to the Vietnam War that you noted, winning a Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts. But he had many critics who called him a war criminal for supporting bombings in Cambodia, to inflaming human rights abuses from Chile to Bangladesh. But Kissinger, though, remained unapologetic and often said he had no regrets.
If I had to do it over again, I would do again substantially the same way, which may make me unreconstructed, and maybe one reason why I'm at peace with myself.
After leaving the White House, Kissinger was consulted by presidents of both parties and corporations on international issues throughout his life, but most famously was when Disney wanted to open a theme park in China. Kissinger first got that call.
When you talk of his influence, Richard, the obituaries written about him are dozens of pages long. There's a lot to discuss when it comes to Henry Kissinger. After word of his death became public, a rush of response. What are the things that are standing out to you most this morning?
Well, there are several, Heather. Former President George W. Bush said, quote, "America has lost one of the most dependable and distinctive voices." Former British Prime Minister Tony Blair said he was in awe of him. And China's foreign ministry called him a pioneer and builder of China-U.S. relations. Even Vladimir Putin, Russia's president, he praised as well. But it wasn't all glowing. Take a look at the headline in Rolling Stone magazine with this brutal assessment. War criminal beloved by America's ruling class finally dies. Other television networks here, including conservative Fox News, said he was praised by supporters as a brilliant strategist, but condemned by critics as a manipulator. So a very mixed track record on this day for Henry Kissinger. More reaction, of course, is expected to pour in throughout the hours.